Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and we are getting ready for battle. We are getting ready for a top-of-the-table clash of the likes I don't think any of the current Celtic squad, the Celtic manager, and maybe a lot of the fans out there have seen the likes of. We are going away to Tynecastle. It is going to be sold out, I can imagine, and it is going to be full of optimistic happy fans that are thinking they can go on and achieve something great this year. This is a situation that, like I said, I don't think any of the players, the manager, have ever faced before. Any of the iterations of Aberdeen and them over the river that Brendan and the guys have faced over the years whenever they've felt like, oh, we could go for it, never really had that same enthusiasm behind it that Hearts have. And this is, for me, a massive throwback to my childhood when we used to have genuine title races in the league. This is going to be a massive six-pointer that's going to have huge ripple effects across the rest of the season, no matter really how the result goes. In the video today, we'll preview how Celtic could, should, and maybe will line up for this one, as well as what to expect from Hearts. At any point in the video today, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. And if you missed the breakdown to the Sturm Graz video, we got one-on-one time with Ben Negren and Sebastian Tenecchi, exclusive to the channel CeltsAreHere. So if you missed that, I'll link it at the end of this one. Be sure to check it out. It was a great breakdown, great match, great comeback, and all that other good stuff. But get into the comment section in this one and let me know what your score prediction is for the game coming into it. And coming into the game, who do you think is going to be the man of the match? Who's going to be the one that stands up and makes the difference for the boys in green and white? But yeah, let's just get stuck straight into this one. Because I had a lot of fun doing the preview for the Sturm Graz game with Brendan Rodgers maybe teasing us that some sort of three at the back shape or something could have been fashioned in, you know, in an attempt to find new solutions to maximising the squad. Sadly, or I don't know about sadly, but that never happened. We went back to the same old 4-3-3 shape. We brought back Alistair Johnson, one or two others. You all know how that went. But coming into this game, we genuinely have some real conundrums that we know the manager is going to be facing coming into this game. I'm not going to talk about Schmeichel and Sinisalo. I don't think that's really in the reckoning for this match in any way, shape or form. We all know that Scaldini has ascended. He is becoming the best version of himself and walks straight into the team. And, you know, we've had Kieran Tierney play 90 minutes consecutively. I find it very hard to imagine he won't be on the starting team sheet for this game today. Can he complete a third 90 minutes within a week? You know, after the injuries we've just had to Carter Vickers and Dyson, etc. But really, once we get past Scales, Schmeichel and Tierney, there's probably a discussion for almost every single player, maybe except for McGregor, in the starting lineup. Now, when it comes to who's going to replace Cameron Carter-Vickers, it's a straight fight between Austin Trusty and Dane Murray. And this is one of the conversation points. I'm excited to see what your thoughts and feelings are for who is going to be the starting centre-back coming into this game. It's very clear that Brendan Rodgers is a big fan of Dane Murray and has gave him many an opportunity to play this season when it became available to him, and played a lot in pre-season, and the manager clearly sees a bright future ahead of him. Austin Trusty and Liam Scales have played together as a centre-back partnership very formidably in some of the toughest games that we had last year, especially in Europe. And this is a real deja vu situation. I kind of touched on the Tierney minute management. I really did think coming into this season, with us especially signing Jemai Simpson-Pussy as well, and Brendan saying he wanted five centre-backs. Five centre-backs was the depth level that he wanted in the team, that we would have looked after Carter Vickers a lot more, because let's call a spade a spade. This happens to Vickers every single season, almost to the date as well. He misses so many of these crucial games in the Champions League, but this year it'll be Europa League and domestically around this autumn coming into the winter time period. And really, there's been a couple of matches. We're not going to go back through Mr. Hindsight and, you know, look at the time he maybe could have been rotated. We've spoke about it at the time on the channel, and I think a lot of you guys will have seen these opportunities kind of come and go. But now it is really push coming to shove where we're down to four centre-backs again. And I think a lot of people imagine the basic depth this is laid out as Scales and Trusty for the left, Murray and JSP will now be moving up the pecking order into the right-hand side. But for me, when we look at the right-hand side, and I don't think anyone imagines Ralston playing this, I think everyone can see Kobe Donovan starting this game. I find it very hard to imagine that Brendan starts Murray and Donovan in this game. I just can't imagine it personally. I think two guys with huge potential have shown some real signs of promise, have shown they've got the minerals, the base elements to really thrive and go on to become great Celtic defenders. But this is a game, like I mentioned in the intro, that is unlike any other game that any of these players have played. Anytime we've played them at Mordor, or even if you remember last year when Aberdeen were going to be up and amongst it, we played them at home in the game that really derailed them. We won 2-0 the first half, we lost the second half, we drew. You might remember that game. But we were at home. So slightly different, going away this time to Hearts. And it's funny how many Hearts fans have emerged this year. I've got a real strong feeling there's a lot of glory hunting from the blue side of Glasgow to the maroon side of Edinburgh over the last couple of weeks, certainly anyway. But to put Murray and Donovan on the right-hand side together, I feel would be, I don't want to quite say reckless, but I do think it would be a risk. I do think it would be a big risk. And personally, I think if we do imagine it will be Donovan, I can see Austin Trusty coming in here. Now, I do think this is a kind of tandem situation here. I don't think JSP is anywhere near coming into this game, but I think you'll either go with Murray and Ralston or Trusty and Donovan for one of them to have that little bit of experience, because this side of the pitch, as you'll see when we come to look at Hearts, is going to be their main route to go. We're used to this being on the left-hand side when formerly we had Greg Taylor and everyone thought Liam Scales was a bomb scare. But now, with the injury to Alistair Johnson, certainly the injury to Carter Vickers, and whoever out of these four is going to come on to play, that will be targeted. Derek McInnes will be doing that anyway. And could he play Ralston and Trusty? Again, I wouldn't completely rule it out, but I think Ralston's, uninspiring performance against Dundee last week has probably relegated him to being behind Donovan, hence why we've seen the substitution for Donovan for Alistair Johnson against Strumpf Graz. So I do think Donovan will just about edge it, but the centre backs, I'm tossing coins here. I've got no idea. I imagine that it's going to be Austin Trusty because of the partnership he's already got established with Liam Scales. He's played on the right of the back four before with Liam Scales, and for the opposition that we're going to have and all the rest of it, I think Trusty will be raring to go. Murray is a lot closer to being match fit. And Trusty's injury that he had is often described by anyone that understands it is very painful. So he might not be all the way there for a very blood and thunder type of match like this one. So it's really anyone's guess. I am personally going to say it'll be Austin Trusty that will start this one, although I know how much the manager likes Dane Murray, and I could imagine it, but I just can't see Murray and Donovan going together on that right-hand side personally. McGregor will be at the anchor of midfield, I think we all know that. It's quite hard to imagine that Bernardo, or even Luke McKeown for that matter, could start this one. But I do think there is huge question marks over Rio Hatate coming into this game. The Strumpf Graz match is probably one of the first matches where I have been thoroughly disappointed by Hatate. In the highlight package and even in the breakdown, he's, again, I say this all the time, so many of his performances are very similar in the sense of, I don't think he ever plays really that bad. And even when he does play great, in a lot of people's opinion, I don't think it's really that different to the games that people bemoan of him. You even look at the Strumpf Graz game, that time when he takes a touch, flicks it over and hits the volley. If he hits the back of the net there's no complaints about Hatate's performance. And he made a great opportunity in the first half to make an attempted assist for maybe Ben de Gren in the first half. He really burst down the left-hand side into this little channel, and then he crossed the ball into the box. And again, if that became an assist, I think a lot of people's perception on his performance would have probably changed. But I found myself so frustrated with the amount of times that he was sleepwalking through the game, especially in the attacking third. I always think Hatate does better on the edge of the game, kind of where we normally leave McGregor, and he's a bit better at running through the lines, playing through the lines, rather than when he's already in the crowd. His decision making can be really poor, and I really did feel that in the Strumpf Graz game, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of alteration, there was some sort of movement. Now, I do think any sort of alteration with Hatate is going to have some sort of domino effect to other players in the team. Whether that be we play even Michel Ange Balikwisha perhaps in that Hatate position, or even we bring Ben de Gren back into midfield. Now, if we were to bring de Gren back into midfield, we're either going to rely on James Forrest, which again I highly doubt, but more likely we might have Daisen Maeda back. Now, if we had Daisen Maeda back, at that point of recording there might be some info out on this to say he will be or he won't be. Maybe you would prefer him as centre forward to replace Johnny Kenny. I could definitely get behind that, don't get me wrong, but I think Kenny showed good energy and endeavour that you could probably start the game with Johnny Kenny if Dyson is fit and available to go for this, and then maybe you could make some changes later on. And there is maybe a glimmer of hope that we see Shin Yamada perhaps be the striker off the bench in this game, and he could maybe play a role in this. Again, Very hard to imagine that he starts it, but I could see, even if Maeda was available, Kenny starting, and you have some different rotations, you bring Shin into the fold, etc. But personally, I floated this idea coming into the Sturm Graz game, or was it the Dundee match? But Dyson, if you hear Brendan's comments last time, he was talking about he came back from Japan, had a bit of a muscle thing, a bit of a tightness, and then in the lead up to one of the matches, he ended up mentioning his back and the muscle injury, and it just sounds very sick note to me. I follow a lot of football, as you guys know, and there's a very similar situation happen with Japan international Take Kubo, who also expected to get a really big transfer in the summer, and it didn't materialise. And I don't know, it smells a bit fishy to me. Let's see how it goes. And, Dyson is a honourable character. He's been a Celtic hero, an icon over the last 5 years or so. So I don't want to throw any shade his way or cast any aspersions towards him or anything like that. But I'm just calling it how I see it. I don't think he's going to play. I don't imagine he's going to play. And really, I do think Negren is probably going to be kept on the right-hand side here. Now, where Negren maybe let us down, in air quotes, as a winger against Sturm Graz, is that pace burning into space coming down the line. But where he is very effective is the same way that we've tried to play Dyson as a forward winger. And he's really good at coming inside. He's got a really good eye for goal. He's got a really good positional awareness, as we've seen against Sturm Graz. He's the top goal scorer in the team at the moment. And I think really with Negren, you want him to be as high in the pitch as possible. And even with you think about his play style against Sturm Graz and all the rest of it, you can see why other teams are trying to play him up front as a centre forward, and I'm getting little deja vus to some of the Nordisland scouting we were doing on Negren, where some of the Nordisland experts said that they tried him as a centre forward and they told us not to bother with that. So this may be something that is a fleeting thought. I spoke to Negren after the Sturm Graz game. He knows he's not a winger, but he will play anywhere and he will give his all for the team. And I think in these areas he is effective, and he probably will end up being reinstated in there at right wing, which probably just about keeps Hatate in the team. And I think ultimately Rodgers is going to want to keep some sort of consistency from midweek into weekend. Could Balikwisha start up here in front of Johnny Kenny? Almost certainly, but I think if we did, Balikwisha would look a lot more like the football hipsters like to call, like the false nine, where he's very much the attacking midfield type player who will drop off into pockets of space and will look for people to then go further on and beyond him. And that could work, but again, it's not something we've really got in our makeup and the style of play for the team, etc. I would love to see Balikwisha get the start, but it's hard to imagine Tuneke, with his play style being so favoured by Brendan, him losing minutes, and like I say, just anywhere else. Could he play for Hatate? Yeah, but I just don't see Brendan taking that type of chance coming into this game. So failing Dyson Maeda being available, if I think he is, you could quite easily see this be the front three, which would be very formidable. Would definitely put a bit of fear into Hearts to see Dyson starting. It's more than likely, I think, going to be Kenny. Now, I've not seen too much of Hearts this year. I watched a good 30-40 minutes of them against Kilmarnock the other week, and I've seen highlights and some clips and some bits and bobs here and there. But one thing that really struck me when I watched them last week against Kilmarnock is that the boy Braga has got a real free role. He does pop up on the right, does come in through the middle, but so often against Kilmarnock, he was coming onto the left-hand side here and really doubling up with Kizaridis. Kizaridis and Braga, as we know, are the main danger men for Hearts. The boy Millen, who's playing right-back, is actually a full-back, and between him, Beringame, Devlin and the back four, you can imagine the Derek McInnes playbook coming out here of being deep, narrow and compact and having, no space to play between the lines, and then as soon as they turn the ball over, can they fly up the pitch? Can they play from Shankland and go and get runners to support him on and beyond, with a particular focus, in our case, down this right-hand side here? Part of the pendulum that will be interesting here is, like, quite often, Sturm Graz was a good example. We have Hatate being the press support for the first half, and in the second half it will be Arne Engels. I think starting this game with the view of having Arne Engels much higher up the pitch and Hatate a lot deeper would make me a lot more comfortable coming into this game. I think the better passages of play, the better support, even for Negren and Kenny, came in the Sturm Graz match when Engels was much higher up the pitch. He was putting his hip into people. He was using that range of passing from the little pockets of space he was able to pick up. And again, he had a really golden chance against Sturm Graz. The boy should have a couple of goals this year. He's had terrible luck in front of goal. But I think that would be a good kind of way of starting the game with a high tempo, put some physicality into the frame to support Kenny. Kenny could have a really good game in this one, just being that fox in the box, just knowing where to be at the right time to get on the end of crosses and stuff, as well as having that pace, that press to get around. But when you see Kenny versus Finlay and Halkett, you can imagine he's not going to get too much change out of them, which is why a bit extra support from the likes of Engels or even Negren nipping and tucking in really tight, if we focus even more so down the left, could work quite well. And I think we do need to do something to give Kenny some extra support in there, because Halkett and Finlay are at the peak of their powers. They're living their best life. They're top of the table right now. And when you add in, I say, the Devlins and the Beningamis, you know that there's just going to be nothing easy in this game. Every inch is going to be fought for. Every pass is going to be high pressure. And every mistake is going to be a currency in this game, quite simply. Now, quite often, Derek McInnes is trying to employ the whole tactic of just sit on McGregor and then Celtic can't play out from the back. And Hearts have been very attacking so far this year, and we know the sort of playbook that works well against Celtic. We've seen it all firsthand, and I think how Derek McInnes tries to approach this match will be a massive indicator on how the match will go. If Derek McInnes can bring himself to doing the whole Kilmarnock, Dundee, whatever playbook you want to think of it as, be tight, deep and narrow, you'll probably see Shankland come deeper than Braga, and then counter-attack, they could get a lot of joy from this. But they are at home. They have expectancy. They have actually match-winning type players in their team. And if they try and come toe-to-toe with us, where they don't do the whole kill the space behind the defence stuff, and they actually try and get on the ball a bit, try and put a show on for their fans, try and show that they are champions-elect, we're going to get a lot more space around the pitch, and it's going to look a lot more like the Sturm Graz second half and some of the more effective matches where we've had, where when we've got space to play into and we can turn the ball over, hit a man into space and then play a striker, we can cut teams open, we can create so many more chances. I personally don't think McInnes will be that short-sighted or get carried away with himself, where he'll call it and go, right, let's just go fight Celtic today. I think he might try the whole game of two halves approach that we've seen Jimmy Tillene get that 2-each draw with last year, and even Derek McInnes has had some relative success with Kilmarnock and formerly Aberdeen down the years, where the first half they go to the Derek McInnes playbook of being very deep, tight and narrow, try and win the first half 1 or 2-0, but certainly don't lose the first half. And then second half, can they start the second half with a slightly different tempo and shape? Can they really push the envelope a little bit more if any mistakes didn't come their way in the first half? And then they maybe make some subs to change things up. We then lose maybe the likes of Tierney or somebody else. We sub some players off, and they would try to ascend through the match as we are maybe toiling, depending on substitution choices, having the likes of Kenny and Trusty and all the rest of it, all these substitutions and injured players having to be finagled. Because really, if there's no Dyson Maeda, who do we really have off the bench? We've got Balakwisha, who's looked good without really contributing too much so far. Paulo Bernardo, who again, isn't really a match winner type player. Shin Yamada, who's not kicked a ball. Sarachi, James Forrest, and beyond that, really, who is the game changers from the bench? We don't really have them. Do Hearts have them? Not necessarily to a greatly different extent, but they're coming into this whole. They've got their best 11. They've got their best 16. They are at home. They have got everything pushing them in this direction, and that's why I said earlier in the video, this is very much a throwback for me to the Dick Advocat and the Alex McLeish era, where if you were a couple of points behind this stage of the season going into a derby, it had a lot on it, and there was everything could be won and lost, the season could be decided, and heroes could be made, and villains could be created, and all the rest of it. And this is the first game I have came into as a Celtic fan in probably 12 years, 13 years, where we've got that old school us versus them, real title clash, top of the table clash, title, not quite a title decider, we're only 9 games in or something, but this is something that a lot of Celtic fans will be enjoying for the first time in a long time, as long as we win it. And for the players, this will be new territory. It'll be a huge test of character, and if we do come out with this with a win, I would be very, very pleased. I think right now, if you gave Brendan Rodgers the draw, he would maybe just take it for an easy life and just to save all the drama and everything. But make no mistake about it, Celtic will be turning up to this with game face on, with ready to battle, ready to go to war, and we'll need big performances from really everyone. Tierney and Donovan especially will have huge pressure on their shoulders, because Taneke needs some support in this left wing area, as does Negren. And again, we've seen the evolution in the team second half. When Donovan got really high, we got a lot more out of Negren, and the goals then started to come. And Taneke hasn't really had that. And don't get me wrong, Tierney's been fine on the left. I think he's been a little bit better than most people make out. He's not quite been that bombastic. He's not been that quite full-blooded attack where he really penetrates these zones here, but he's still really effective. He does get forward, but he kind of picks his battles, picks his moments. And defensively, I say nobody's mugged him off, nobody's done him in. So be a lot of focus on the wide areas, because that's where we want to focus. And Hearts, and like everyone else, they don't really care about the wide areas. They're going to be really happy for us to split the team and give away the middle ground, so that when the ball does turn over, you know, they've got an easier route down the middle, straight down the pipe, to try and find shots at goal and all the rest of it. It'll be a very tight match. I could see this being a draw, like in all fairness. If this came out as a 1 each, a 2 each, a 0-0 draw, it wouldn't be a huge surprise. I could see a cancellation type thing happening out here. But this is so cup final territory for Hearts. They will be given everything all the way to the final kick. We've seen last minute heroics from Halkett already from set pieces. And again, set pieces will be a massive, massive currency in this game. Great to see we scored 2 corners against Sturm Graz coming into this one. Can we defend them as resolutely, and can we still attack them well? But having interviewed Negren and Tuneke after the Sturm Graz game, I've got a feeling that one or both of them, are really, like they were mentioning, we've got a big game at the weekend. You can tell they've really got their eyes on it. And if you're coming to Celtic, you want to be a Celtic player. It's about playing in these big crunch matches in Europe and domestically. And yeah, we expect to dominate domestically, but you still expect to earn your crust. And this is going to be a game where everyone is going to be earning their bonuses and their crust if we can get the result in this one. And I do say if, because it is away from home. Swallow is a high-level goalkeeper for the Scottish League. So many of these players, whether it be some of the incumbent ones that they had already, or some of the other ones that Derek McInnes has brought in, never mind the Jamestown analytics, Hearts have got a really well-balanced squad where they've got guys that know the league. They've got that grit and determination. They do have high-level, football acumen and stuff like that, but they also have X-factor. They also have pace. They also have match winners. They have a fox-in-the-box goal scorer, and they've got a really solid goalkeeper. This is a game where anything could happen. I'm going to go for Celtic to win this by 2-1. I think this is going to be a nail-biter. I think it's going to be very tense. There might even be a penalty, a bit of VAR that comes into this one. Hatate loves Tynecastle. We've had a good kind of track record up there for the most part. And I think this will be, like, I say 2-1. I think the winning goal is going to be pandemonium. It's going to be a very, very tight match. Could be a tight first half and all the goals come second half. I don't know. But I think there'll be 1 goal in it. And I think the Hoops will take it 2-1. With one of the players, maybe it's Engels, right? Because Engels is starting to get some love after Sturm Graz. But I really feel someone in the front three. This is a hero maker match, and I feel one of them is going to step up and be the hero on the day. Let me know your thoughts and feelings coming into the match, your score predictions, who could be the standout performer. On screen now is the Sturm Graz preview, or the breakdown, sorry, that I mentioned earlier in case you missed it, as well as something else that we've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. If you haven't done so already, please do hit like and subscribe for more content like this. If you're going to the game, travel safe. I hope you have a great time. Hail, hail, and on the Hoops.